Hey, we want to welcome everybody to this webinar that where we're going to talk through our Nitro Studio UI UX. We want to welcome you from wherever you're coming from in the world. Today, as we get into this conversation, we'll try not to go. We won't go a full hour for sure, but we'll try to kind of get right into the details and talk about what Crow Canyon has built. In reference to business process automation, forms, etc. And we'll do a sort of a show and tell here. I think the goal for us is to have an interactive discussion. So there is an option to submit questions. So along the way, if you have questions or comments, please do so, and we'll address those as they come in. We'll try to do that real time, but it might be towards the end of the webinar where we address those. So I want to introduce Scott Restivo, who's our resident expert in Nitro Studio, as well as James and myself. I'm Jeff Priest. We're going to probably have more of a banter discussion around our solution and what we see from customers or hear from customers, what we built in reference to what we see as a need on the Office 365 and SharePoint platform. And we've done that in collaboration with our customers. So we hope that you find this interesting and maybe possibly entertaining, who knows. But let's jump right in with Scott and we'll show you what we have.
Well, yeah, hello everyone. Thank you, Jeff, for the introduction. We'll jump right into Nitro Studio. I do want to say Nitro Studio, for anyone who doesn't know this already, that we run in Office 365. Nitro Studio runs in Office 365, commercial, GCC, which is the government cloud, and the GCC High. So anyone from in the government cloud, GCC, on this call, we do run in that quite well. I mean, that's one of our main, we have many customers in that, state government across the country, as well as federal and county and city governments also, as well as international. Just to point out that our studio works in all those different environments, also in SharePoint on premises. We got SharePoint 2013, 16, 19, SE. So we got you covered with Nitro Studio. Now, what we want to, this first slide I'm going to give you here, I'm going to put up here, here it goes. Just kind of like, when I got this quote, I kind of explained it all to me in a lot of ways, that how we're, Nitro Studio was built to make it easy to use those platforms of SharePoint and Office 365 in ways that really drive business process automation forward. And this was really, we were all really glad to get a comment like this from one of our customers. Intuitive and user-friendly set of tools. I think that's really key. That's what we were aiming for, to make it easy to use, easy to access, a system that's comprehensive, includes the forms, the workflows, the reports. We even have an Engage bot for the Office 365 people, a Teams bot, I should call it. And then non-technical users to create solutions, to automate whatever, they did a QA process here, whatever process, and turn Office 365 or SharePoint on premises into a true business process automation platform. That's really kind of, as a person who works in this company for many years, it's very heartwarming to get a response like that, to say, yeah, we really did something good for that, and hopefully for this company, and hopefully we can do the same for whoever else is on this webinar and wants to take up Nitro Studio and start building business process automation tools in Office 365 or SharePoint or Teams. So we have what it takes to do that, and that's what Nitro Studio is all about. We have the, we say the qualities here, we're affordable, easy to use, comprehensive, and also our world-class support and training. So we're here to help you and support you. What we have is a forms designer, a workflow designer, a report tool, and all that. Today, we have a three-part series going on this week, next week, and the week after. And today we're going to focus on the forms and UI aspect of things, okay? We're not going to go too into the workflows, even though they're very, very interesting. Here's our form designer, then we have our workflow designer, we have our Engage bot for Teams. Those are the things we'll be doing later in this webinar. Later in this webinar series. The next two. This week is forms, UI, and UX. Next week is workflows and custom actions. And the week after that is this Nitro Engage for Teams bot. And let's see what's the last slide, then we're going to jump right into it. Support. Oh, I want to point out that we have a lot of support and training for resources for anybody who is interested in it, and we can go through all this with you. So let's jump right into it, guys, right? I don't think we need to go on and on with PowerPoint. Well, this is a little different webinar. We decided we're not going to go big into into the whole PowerPoint, overwhelming you with PowerPoint slides. What we did instead is this. This is, hopefully you'll find this interesting, kind of a more interactive and engaging way to do things rather than just see a whole bunch of PowerPoint slides and hear me ramble on and on for an hour. What we did here, James and I this morning, just a few hours ago, maybe a couple hours, we created a site, which is called Access. We're playing around with this idea that you need an access request system. Now, this could apply to anything. It could be leave request. It could be, purchase request, any kind of request you have. A lot of business processes are about making requests, getting approval, getting fulfillment, and not using old forms or email or spreadsheets or anything like that, but to use a real system. Now, what we're showing you here is not Nitro Studio. This is SharePoint out of the box. So SharePoint, it could be in Office 365, it could be in on-premises. And in Office 365, people really think of it more as Office 365 SharePoint. So let's just assume that we're coming from that point of view. So you have access requests. Okay, that's great. We have James and I created a few lists here. You have an access request list. And really what we want to point out right here, and this is really the problem that a lot of people have, is that they come here, they create a list, and this is what you get out of it. You get this standard SharePoint thing that is really not that useful in many ways at all. So what we've done in our development over the years with Nitro Studio is create a forms designer so you can create forms that are very useful and practical for your users to use. They could use it in SharePoint, they could use it in a portal. We also have other ways people can engage with our system. People can send in emails, they can send in text and they become requests or tickets. They can use a portal, they can use the bot and Teams. But we want to show you this forms designer because once the request or incident or whatever gets entered in, there's a form on the back end that the admin people and the staff work. So what are you going to do from this point? Are you going to continue working with this form here, or are you going to go use our Nitro forms? So once Nitro Studio is installed and activated in the site, which we did already, that just takes like 5 minutes. It's activated in this site called Access Requests. You get these items on your bar here, your ribbon, and one of them is Nitro Forms. So we're going to go here and click Nitro Forms and open up Nitro Forms Designer. And then, just make some quick changes, and we'll go back and forth a little between that and the screen, and you'll see like, okay, here's a form. It's like nothing much going on. But then if you want to get going with Nitro Forms, you just click add all columns. So any columns you created get automatically added. Then there's some settings inside the form designer where you can go in and say you want to show item created, modified at the bottom, so you can take them off here, not clutter. So here you go. You can just delete the controls very easily. You can add new ones. You can rearrange how things are set up. You can modify this, and within a very short period of time, you're going to have a form let's call it the rudimentary form going here. So now if I publish this like that, we're now working from a whole different perspective than that basic SharePoint form that you got originally when you used it. Now let's see if we refresh this and the new form comes up when we do a new item. Are we going to get the new Nitro form? We should. So see, within a matter of minutes, you already have a form now that's much different than the form you're working on. This is just the basic start here. So the idea here also is that now you have other lists that you can start to add information in. You can do cascaded lookups. You can do you can add associated items, associated links. You can do dynamic forms. You can autofill. I mean, there's so many things you can do with this form. And just once you get out of that SharePoint basic matrix of kind of form, and now you start going with Nitro forms. So what we're going to do here is in the Nitro forms, you can add a few more lists here, a few more columns if you want. Here you can rearrange it. You can add different tabs or sections if you want. You want to put a new tab on, you can put another tab and start putting stuff on that. You can make this into sections instead of tabs. There's many things you can do with our forms designer to make it look really nice, and depending on how you want to do it. You can modify what these headers have in them. You can do permissions. So first thing we want to do then here, just to show some functionality, is to get, we were going to do what? Category and issue type, I think, right here. So we're going to find category. Do we have a category field? No, we have to create one, right? So we go here, we create a column, it's going to be a standard lookup column to category, right there, James? If I'm wrong.
Yeah, you could use a Nitro Lookup too, because I think the Nitro Lookup gives you more flexibility. Sure, you could create a SharePoint lookup, which is great, but the Nitro Lookup gives you flexibility to pull in information from the other list and a few other options on here. You can do cascading from it as well. Makes it really easy to cascade multiple lookup lists. But I always recommend going with the Nitro.
Okay, so we go with the category. We just do any view of all items. Lookup column is going to be what? Title, of course, yeah. And that's basically it, right?
Yeah.
Value for the name and new column. Oh, yeah, I got to put that in category. Category. Okay. Okay. And so now you have new here, and you just drag it where you want it on the form. And it's now pulling in information from another list inside of our access request, mock-up form we're doing here. You have a category list that James put together here, just a few categories. But now when you go to access request, you have the ability to, when you create a new one, to see that list of categories. That wasn't there a moment ago, but there it is, right? So that is now added very easily with our Nitro. So you start to build these very quickly and very easily. Now, there's one other thing we want to do here is to create a cascaded lookup using category. First, you choose like a database or built facilities or whatever. Then you want to do a subset of that. So you might have a database and you want SQL, SAP, or whatever. Or no, SQL, Oracle, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Facilities, building 1, building 2. So James, to create the access to as a cascaded lookup.
Right, this one you have to use the Nitro Lookup.
We go to Nitro Lookup. We're going to call it access to. So the category is building, and what do you want access to would be building 1, or if you have database, what access you want to. This is just an example of what can be done, and I want to show you cascade lookup. So let's go through this. We're going to lookup list is what are we going to do here, Jane? We're going to go to access to, right? We're going to go to all items. We're going to look up columns, title, and then we go down here and say when access to is based on the value in the parent. The parent is going to be category and matching it with this column, which of course is category there, and that's it, right?
Yep.
We're done. So that's nice and simple. We got access to here as a new field that was just created. We put it under it because it cascades under it. And then we publish this, and we've got a cascaded lookup just like that. Very simple, huh? So we go here, new. So we build in all these tools to make it really easy, once you get a hang of Nitro Studio to do it. Before it just said category, now we do database. And we have a list of databases. We do facility, and we have a list of facilities like this that you want to do, building 1. So that's one example of like how easy it is to do this. Now to show some dynamic forms, dynamic capabilities, we're going to add a new field called SQL database name, SQL database name. It's just a single line of text. And if you're familiar with SharePoint, this stuff is like pretty easy. Create a field, create a field. So what we're going to do then is put that in here into the form, SQL database name. Now you only want that to show up when the access to says SQL database, right? Because right now, if I publish this right now, it's always going to show up the SQL database name right here is always going to show up. So, but we only want it to show up when the name is, when SQL is chosen right there, right? So let's cancel that and go back here and do that. That's quite easy. You go here, you highlight that column, you go over to permissions, and you've got the option to show or hide here. So we're going to show SQL. It's called SQL DB. We're going to show that when the condition is that access to is equal to SQL. You could even like just click this and it'll give you the options of what to choose so you get the spelling right? Let's make it easier. We build all kinds of stuff like that. So it's going to show when access to is SQL, and then we're going to hide it. Hide right here. Hide. You can also make fields read only in there if you want. Hide. SQL condition is access to is not equal to SQL, right? SQL right there. Okay. So then we apply that. Apply it, and then we publish the form. It's always interesting in demos, is it going to work or not? Of course it does. It's just sometimes in a hurry you get like things off a little, but let's see what happens. It shouldn't show up right now. It doesn't, right? Nope. It doesn't show up when I choose database. Nope. It doesn't show up when I do Oracle, but it does show up when I do SQL. Does it? Yes, it does. Look at that, huh? So there you go, right? So that's like a dynamic form, very simple kind of dynamic form capability there. These are the kind of things that we built in. Now, this is like a simple example. Now we can do something like, if it's SQL, show up a whole nother tab, like section 2 only shows up when there, and section 2 for SQL could have the database, the manager of SQL, the type of access required and all that. And we'll show you that in a moment in another system that's more developed, how that's going on. Another thing we can do is okay, let's do this. Let me go back to the Nitro forms. Let me find the column that already exists. I know it exists because I created it earlier today. It's called requester email. Nope, it's not there. I got to go here and create another field called single line of text called requester phone. Requester phone. Okay, just to put it on there, and we're going to make it. You can show you autofill is what I'm doing here. So put it in, and now you notice when I open up that new form, requester was not filled in, but we in our Nitro Studio have an autofill capability here, right here, autofill user information based on, it could be on user profile, whatever. So we're going to do a new setting right here, and we're going to fill in based on the login user. We're going to fill in user column requester, just like that, right? And then we're going to map the column of requester email to the email property of that person, and we're going to map the phone property to the phone property of that person, requester phone to the phone property. Okay, and then we do okay, we publish this, and now when I open up this form, cancel this one, open up a new one, it will know who is the requester with the email and phone number. Again, you go to database, and then you go to SQL, and the SQL shows up. See, you're getting a lot of automation going on here, and this could go on and on and on. One other thing I want to show before we get into a little more of the UI design, rather than the actual layout of the form, is an associated item kind of capability. Let's do it this way. Let's take this one off. In fact, I'm going to go back to tabs just because maybe that's a good way to do it. On tab, we're going to put tasks, associated tasks, right? There may be a task related to it. So if somebody's going to get access to a SQL database, you got to assign a task to the database admin, and then be able to do that. So now, what we want to do here, James, is add in an associated column called task, associated items column, right?
Yep.
Tasks, let's just call it associated tasks. I don't know. Let's just call it tasks, make it simple. Tasks, right? And we're going to go here. We're going to select from the list the site of this site. Notice you can do cross-site lookups here. You're going to go to the task list, associated task list, with the summary view. You have summary view there. And we're going to do the lookup column. It's going to be really quest ID, and this is going to be associated task form. You have options here, but let's just get that going right here and see what happens, right?
Yeah, one thing to know is if you create that list without the lookup, within the setting page right there that we just saw, there is a way to create that lookup, because that's what creates the connection between the associated item and the parent, the child item and the parent item.
There we go. And what I usually do here is change the view of this, configure this tab to have horizontal, vertical, so that the label comes up above it. You get a wider. Okay, so let's see what happens now when we publish it. The point I'm trying to make here is, gee whiz kind of thing, and of course, James and I and Jeff, we all know this pretty well. But the point is, it doesn't take much to get up to speed to be able to produce real business process automation solutions for your customers. Like that first quote said, intuitive, easy to use, quick. We built this for that reason. So here we go, task. If you want to do a new item, a new task here, your task name, like, well, you know, whatever it is. What I have here, I don't know, wireframe. Well, let's just say something. Add user to database. I don't know. I'm just making something up. You can put priority, assign it to different people and all that. And when you save it, it becomes a task that's listed right here on it and associated with this request. So let's go here. New user on SQL. For some reason I'm using that one a lot, SQL, whatever. So we'll go here, database, and then we go into SQL. And the database name is XYZ, right? XYZ database. There it is, XYZ database. Save. So in our list here of access requests, we now have this one that is, you know, it's got some information in it. Because you can adjust the view and do things differently. And this is, you know, of course, we're just winging it here during this webinar to show you what can't be done with the Nitro forms and how cool it is to do this. Yes,
yeah, and I think some things, you know, important to highlight here too are some of the other things that we can do here with the line HTML control to add instructions. So if you needed to inform your users on how to fill out a certain part of the form, even put it onto the form itself, to give them instructions on how do I do this, how do I do that. Well, you put the information in the line HTML control. It just gives you a way to put really free-form text onto your form. And the other thing, we have the validations to help control what data is getting entered to make sure it's being entered properly. We have a number of things like that. You could put
validations, right? That's a big one.
Yeah, descriptions. You could put you can use the column descriptions that in SharePoint. You could put a column description, but you could also make your own description. If you do an override setting on any one of these columns, you could do a description that in and of itself could be instructions on how to fill out that particular field. And it's basically about giving your users the guidance to fill this out the way they need to fill out. So it's not only can we make it look good, but we can also give you the functionality to make sure that your customers are filling it out the way you want them to fill it out. So you're not getting bad data in there. So like description could be confusing. What does description mean? Well, you can put some text around that to describe what are you trying to actually get in that field, right?
Yeah, and James, one of the things that we hear on our side of the business is that, and this is why this is so useful, is precisely that, is description, right? They try to describe it, and then it ends up kicking off a back and forth, understanding of what that description is. And so I think that this allows for the creation of a very specific line of sort of questionings and or field requirements that start to save time. And I think that really this is ultimately what we are helping our customers do, is to drive efficiencies, save time, increase productivity, and simple things like this accomplish that. Not to mention it's user effort, right? It's back and forth, the frustration that users have, as well as in trying to get quick resolution on some of these things too. It's actually a much bigger aid than a lot of people realize even from the beginning, but they realize later as they kind of get this implemented.
Yeah. We're getting a lot of ways to arrange this form in different ways, and we go on and dig deeper and deeper into this, but this is just one part of the UI UX. Let me bring over a more realized or fully developed access request system we did for other demo purposes, let's put it that way. And so this one, it's still using Office 365 and SharePoint. And this, you can see that this form has been more developed. And we wanted to give you a taste of what it is to take it from more or less scratch. We were talking about soup earlier. First, you cut the onions and you saute them, and then, but if you show a person the full soup already, they're like, well, how'd you get to that point? Well, we're kind of trying to show you that using Nitro Studio is very simple and easy and intuitive, and then you get these nice looking forms quite easily. So you can see that what we were doing earlier is kind of a precursor of what happened here. And it doesn't take a lot more work to get to this point. We put access requests up here. We have a title. We have type of access change. Now watch this. If you change to add, because you want to add access, now again, this is not just about access, it's about leave requests or purchase, any kind of request, but we're using access request as an example. Say add. So what we want to do here, okay, let's just say title. So add, we're doing add here, and it's add, it just shows a section in yellow to alert the user that they need to fill in, is it a perpetual access, like forever, or is it temporary for somebody who's just gonna be here for a week or two or a month? So, you know, but if you do modify, you don't need that, or if you're revoking it. So, you know, you're seeing here that you can build in business processes and functionality right in the UI UX. So the user doesn't have to fill that out, a data access, if he or she is not doing that. You know, it's only there for what's necessary. Now here's something else that builds on the whole database SQL thing I was doing earlier of Cascaded Lookup. Just right now, there's no SQL tab between these two, right? But there will be right now. Here it is. So now we have this DB server name, the database name, the permissions, you know, the DBA, and this starts to set up a whole business process scenario here, which we'll go into next week more with the workflows and custom actions. Now you're going to say, okay, this DBA needs to be informed that this access has to be granted by such and such day. So you're sending notifications to that person. You're sending alerts. If they don't do it, you can create a subtask for them if you want automatically with our systems to say this DBA now is a task to add access or modify or revoke access for person X by next Friday or something like that. And if they don't do it, they get reminders that our workflows run that remind people. You can see here if you can also choose an employee or a contractor. So if you have a contractor, it's going to pull from the contractor list over here, and it's going to allow you to select a contractor, you know, Johnny Rogers from Rogers Superior Consulting or whatever, and the rep is James. May any associate, I mean, any fields you want could be pulled from the contractor list. It could be, you know, like invoicing information and things like that, or I don't know, or do you have a service contract with this person? This kind of thing. So you start to build these really, really great workflows. I mean, well, business processes right in the form itself. When they're making the request, they're already moving the process along quite well. And requester information is all filled in automatically from our autofill I showed you a little earlier. We talked about the SQL database. We talked about associated tasks, you know, how you can hide and show different sections. You can have a signature field, blah, you know, blah, 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 right? You can have different arrangements of the tabs if you want to make it like rounded corners on the buttons and hover colors, and you want to put things in a, you know, any way you want to make it look right and nice. And you can also have tables, and it's a little gaudy. I think I'm gonna change that lime green. It's fluorescent green at some point, but it's just showing that you can have tables and things like that inside your form. So that's really like, you know, we're focused right now on UI UX, but I don't want to minimize the fact of workflows are going behind here. So here we go, access to XYZ database. All these things we've put quite a few different buttons on this one to show the capabilities, and we'll go into this more next week. But you know, you can have buttons that automatically escalate it, assign the self. So this is part of the UI UX, but it's also part of the custom actions and workflows. And these could be on the buttons up here, or they could be like what do you call these, icons over here, options over here. So there is a lot of possibilities with the custom actions workflows, but we'll have to wait till next week to go into that in more detail, right? Right there, James. We'll dig it. Maybe you'll do that one. You'll dig into that one part.
Sure.
James does a lot of workshops, like every month, on the different aspects of you know, Nitro Studio, because it's just a lot of interesting things you can do with it. Now let's go back a little bit and see what's underlying all this and how this happening. Well, we talked about Nitro Studio. Here's Nitro Studio. Excuse me for a moment, I'm gonna go back. You get it through Nitro Apps, or you get it through our application administration, and it's always sitting there waiting for you to use it if you want to, is our Nitro Studio underlying this system access request. So we went into the forms designer, you saw that already. We have a workflow designer, the visual workflow designer now. Next week, we have reporting, we have portals, and we have all these other functionalities. One thing for UI UX I think is important is the email and text sync and the email manager. I'm showing you forms, but maybe in your situation, people don't want to use forms. They want to use email. They're used to it. We've had a lot of people in a hybrid situation where from day one, they've been using email and the users don't want to change. They always send an email to xyz@company.com, support@company.com, or access@company.com, or leave request or vacation, whatever the email address is, that's what they're used to doing. So we have ability here to email, to take in incoming emails and turn them into requests or tickets. Of course, you get only a certain amount of information in an email, nothing like I've shown you the dynamic forms and all that, but it is a way for people to engage with the system. And we also have texting. People could text in to a certain number, and that would create a request also. And there's a back and forth also, like an email history that's recorded. Email manager helps you manage that and what messages go out and recording it and make sure that all associated with each other. The other aspect of things that we can do here with our system for UI UX, two more things. One is a portal. Now we have, and this is just a test environment, so I didn't create too elaborate a portal, but the idea here is that you got to simplify. I realize this is very primitive, and apologize for that a little, because we just did like a test environment here. We can dig up a portal to show you that it looks really nice. Some of our customers have done some really great ones, really modern UI, looking good. But I want to show you the basic functionality, that you can have a screen, kind of intranet screen for the end users to use. They don't have to go to back-end SharePoint at all. And then they want to do a new access request. They just come in through their browser, through their mobile phone, their desktop, their tablet, create a new access request in the same way. They have the same functionality, database, SQL, showing the different sections. All that functionality is right available to them to enter in the ticket, like we did, in the previous screens. So we can cancel that, and you can also go to look at all your existing requests. Now we can make these a lot more elaborate, where it only shows tickets that are assigned to you. If you're a staff member or a manager, might want to see certain kinds of reports. You can do all kinds of things with this portal. We just want to show you one part of the UI UX is the ability to use a portal in this manner. That you don't have to put people in the back-end SharePoint at all. This kind of form is in the back-end SharePoint. A lot of times administrators are going in that. Now, one other thing before we get, we're trying to keep this to 40 minutes, so we have like another 5 or 7 minutes or something. This is a teaser for what's coming up in 2 weeks. So I'll only go into it for a few minutes. Another way that we're engaging people with Teams. Now, of course, you have to be on Microsoft Office 365, not SharePoint on-prem, but that's okay. So you have this bot. We have a bot. It's a bot, but we call it Nitro Engage. We were kidding around the other day. What's a name for a bot? Bot has this whole idea of, robots, and I don't know. It's like, I wouldn't say negative, but sort of like something that has a good idea but doesn't quite, fulfill its promise, you might say. But so we're calling it Nitro Engage. We call them automatic engagement facilitators. That's a new one. I don't know if anyone's ever used that before. We call them automatic engagement facilitators. James, I don't know if anyone else in the company likes that name.
It's a little verbose. It's a little long.
Well, the idea is it does, it facilitates engagement with the applications. I don't know. Anyway, so we call it Nitro Engage instead. So we have a whole list of commands, which is controlled again in the Nitro Studio. Here's an example of our access request. So you can create an access request right here. Now think about this. If you're on the mobile device, your phone, here you go. This is this screen, this is Teams on mobile. Let me see if I can shorten that right down. You got ability to use your mobile device. In fact, James, I didn't show this. You said, remind me, you can actually show in the preview in different screens in the Form Designer. There's so much to the Form Designer, that how can we do it in a half hour? It's so cool, so much going on. Anyway, back to the bot. No, excuse me, back to the Nitro Engage Teams app, automatic engagement facility. All right, I won't use that all the time. So here we go, Nitro Engage. You can create an access request right here. Give it some, and what do you next? Access to building 1. I think, let's just do this. Let's do access to building 1. Okay, description, need to do maintenance on 2nd floor. I don't know, whatever, There's some good reason you need maintenance there. Anyway, so the due date would be, let's just say needs it today, and the building 1's right there. Okay, so if we submit this to the bot, this access request, it goes. And now in the workflows and everything next week, we can show you how it goes to the manager's Teams bot. The manager gets an approval card. He or she can approve it. And then it goes around the whole circle without ever having to go to the back end SharePoint at all. So let's look and see if we're in the access request system here. Response was created, good. So I go back to where we were in the other screen, right here, access requests, and I go to the list of access requests. What I say, access to building one. Yeah, here it is. Well, I did this one earlier, and this one I just did about a minute ago. So, and I can get the requested to show up in that card too. It's just, you know, whatever. So what we did is using the Engage bot, Nitro Engage, excuse me, or using the portal, or using the backend SharePoint, or using email or text, you're creating items into your business process system, which can then have workflows run on them, and automation happens through our Nitro workflows, our custom actions, our bots, and everything else. So we create a full system. It isn't like you have to have Power Apps and Power Automate and Power BI and Power Pages and Power Virtual Assistant, all with different learning curves and different prices and different, you know, ways of doing things. And, you know, James is trying to play around. I mean, we play around with Power Apps every once in a while, and it's like, we're always amazed at how clunky or difficult it is to use. I mean, you know, compared to what we do with Nitro Studio, I don't know what Microsoft was thinking, to be honest with you, but, you know, they got a developer mindset. And like they say, you don't have to be a developer to use Power Platform, but it sure helps, you know. And our feedback, and I'll just be honest, you know, from many of our customers is that thank goodness there is Nitro Studio, because that Power Platform has just been a nightmare to try and figure out. Now, if you can use it, you're making a lot of good use of it, then God bless you, that's great. But if you want an alternative, or you want something that's easy to use, intuitive, well supported by Crow Canyon, you know, this is what we do all day, night and day. We have teams in US, India, we have people in Australia, people in Costa Rica. I mean, you know, we're all over. We're here to help you out, support it. We want to be intuitive. This is what we do. This is built by, you know, we create our applications on top of Nitro Studio. And so we want to make it as easy to use as possible, intuitive, and we get so much good feedback from our customers, right, James? You know?
Oh yeah. We utilize the feedback a lot. We're very in tune with what the community is asking for, and if they're suggesting something that is a good addition to the product, we're pretty responsive in getting it in there and turning that around pretty quickly. So it's you know, we're very engaged with our customers and very much in tune with what they're asking for.
Well, you remember the whole InfoPath thing where InfoPath, you know, I think it was 5 years ago or something, we were doing InfoPath replacement. We still are, but we started and people were saying, well, InfoPath says this, do you? And we're like, well, okay, you know, and we went in and then we spent 1 or 2 years really revising, or let's say enhancing a lot of Nitro Studio so that it could function quite well and be a true InfoPath replacement, which it has certainly become and been used by some major corporations and government agencies to replace, I don't know, hundreds and sometimes even thousands of InfoPath forms with Nitro Studio forms, and quite successful in that regard. Okay, what I'm showing you here is that there's also a command you can create called open. You'll view your open access request. So we look at the one I just created. So you can be entirely in Teams and Teams bot, and we'll show you more of this in a couple of weeks, and being able to do all your business process automation right there. You know, you create it in it. It goes to the manager in the bot, and then you can see what's open, the status, get a response back that it's been approved, and then all you have to do if it's a vacation request is pack your bag and go on take your trip, right? Everything's done inside your Teams bot. Engage facilitator, engagement facilitator. Anyway, it's supposed to be showing me this form. I don't know what's going on here, but the form is there. All right, so we're right at the 40 minutes. Any questions? No, it doesn't seem like there's any questions, but I hope people are engaged. What we want to do is, I want to point out here that there are upcoming webinars that we're going to keep doing. This is the one we're doing today. Then there's one about workflows, the flow in workflows, and the one about putting teams to work. That's 1 week from now, then 2 weeks from now. just an August series. We know a lot of people are out on vacation, doing other things, but we wanted to put together this series so that people can see the true power of Nitro Studio. And I want to also point out, and let me bring that back again, that we have a whole series of on-demand recent webinars. One was why Nitro Studio is better than Power Platform Business Process Automation. That's a pretty bold statement, but we're making it right there. And we think that we have make a very good case in it. And then we have a lot of other webinars you can watch if you want. James did a whole series on the IT help desk that we have, showing different aspects of how the IT help desk. And well, I should really say the bottom line is get in touch and we will do a one-on-one demo. We'd love to hear what your situation is, what your business issues are, what you want to automate, and whether you're on older versions of SharePoint. Even we even have some people on SharePoint 2010, believe it or not, but SharePoint 2013, 2016, we can help you move processes off of those older ones. If you're going to Office 365, or you're going from an older version of SharePoint to a newer version of SharePoint, like say the 19 or SE versions. Office 365. If you want to use Teams more effectively, we have a whole set, information on Teams and how we can work with Teams. Again, that's in 2 weeks. I don't want to go into it too much right now.
So Scott, one thing I wanted to say here, Troy, before we're wrapping it up is, I know this was about UI UX. It's just this user experience, what the interface looks like, and how that can inspire users to engage in sort of non-traditional, not really effective ways in communication, whether it be typical email going to an individual or a phone call going to somebody, or hey, just get up and go tap someone on the shoulder, but it's really kind of to systemize this and in processes. And I think over the course, we've been building applications within SharePoint, in Office 365, but specifically in SharePoint for many, many years, last couple decades. And so I think that one of the things we realized, and sort of this is the birth of Nitro Studio, was that, hey, we were doing this for our clients, providing tools and capabilities for configuration within those tools, but we were doing a lot of building and coding and engineering work to build these tools, then offer to our clients. We said, hey, I think this is something that we need to build the platform. Our friends over at companies like Nintex and K2 and others out there that were doing that, but with fairly large price tags on those items, not to mention the need for consultants to come in and do that for them. Is we wanted to build an intuitive tool to allow customers to build business processes, and included what we've been doing, in our environment through coding into a no-code solution. Now, Scott did go through some things that, maybe there's a slight learning curve in some of our stuff, but to do this where it's a no-code solution that our users could be somebody that has no idea really about SharePoint, or they could be a SharePoint user that can very simply build something for one of their internal customers that's a business process that becomes a massive productivity enhancer for them. And so so Nitro Studio, the UI UX component for us is really about the engaging your customers, both front end and on the back end, to then use these things to systemize them in such a way that they don't, things aren't falling through the cracks. There's reporting, there's all kinds of, cool features and functionality there to do that. So I think that's, kind of the message we want to get across as well, is that these are powerful tools that can spread throughout the organization, not just through one particular, process need, but an entire enterprise could benefit from, from Nitro Studio.
That's exactly right. It's a matter of, we find people, and it's really exciting to us to see when they take Nitro Studio and they do just some really amazing things for their organization, because we know business process, but we don't know every industry and every possibility out there, and they do things that we never even probably would have thought of that are possible. For instance, here's one example. Down in Australia, we're doing this asset management programs for retirement homes that is all done on Nitro Studio, and they have to comply with a certain law that was passed down there. And one operator came to us, and so we got together and we adapted our asset management program, which is kind of for IT assets, but we adapted it for taking care of these retirement homes. And it's just due to the flexibility of Nitro Studio, we were able to do that. and now those homes, those villages are compliant. They were going to be facing audits and fines because they have to keep track of every piece of equipment in every one of the retirement village homes, like dishwashers, microwaves, refrigerators, and all that kind of stuff. So it just shows there's enormous flexibility with Nitro Studio. It always amazes me how it's used in so many different locations, whether it's government, education, manufacturing, nonprofits, you name it. I mean, it's out there and in use. So what we'd like to do is hear from anybody who wants to follow up a little more detail, get together with, we're not a hard sell. We feel we have a good product, and if it fits, then you'll want to go with it. We talk about pricing and all that, and hopefully we can provide you some kind of solution. You guys have anything else you want to say? Because we're at the 45. We went a little over 40. We're at 45. So did want to keep it a little less than an hour. But I do want to, James, Jeff, you got some last minute comments?
I think in just wrapping this up, I want to encourage. I know that many times we have existing customers that come on, which we love to see. We have people that have not seen the product, which is fantastic. But for us right now, I think that next steps, as Scott mentioned, we do have this is a series. We have another webinar coming up that gets into the back end, the actual workflow of this. This is just the surface level interface itself, but there's the whole power of the workflow and our drag and drop workflow designer that is going to be an interesting follow-up to this. So I'd encourage you to go sign up for that. If you want to reach out at all, through our site, you can call us, you can email us, there's a number of ways in which you can contact us. There's a form on the site, but we'd love to hear from you and set up a demo. The demo is always very interesting, kind of engaging conversation to talk about more business requirements and how our tool and Nitro Studio might meet those business requirements, and how we can also give you ideas and what we see out there to kind of expand, in terms of where this might be utilized within the organization to help you kind of see the bigger picture. So please reach out. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to do a demo, and then we'll see you next time.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Thank you, James and Jeff, for jumping in and helping out. And thanks to everyone for attending. We'll have a recording of this available. We'll record the other two also. So even if you sign up, even if you can't make it to the other two, the next two coming up, hopefully you can. But if you can't, we will have recordings available and post them online. So thanks again. Hope you all have a good rest of the day. Appreciate your attending this, and talk soon. Hopefully we'll talk soon. Okay, bye-bye.